You've made it to cycle 1. We are going to be reading pages 45 to 47, so I'd like you to make sure you have something to take notes with and pull open the book. We're going to be starting on page 45. Resume the video when you get to that page. Alright, now that we have all our materials and our book is ready to go, follow along on page 45. This chapter is called Dinosaur Brain, Chapter 8. It turned out to be a cool summer. I figured we'd get into trouble for running into the pond. It looked bad for a while when the cops drove us home and I got out all soaking wet and covered with gook. And when Grim was hosing me down, he had this really pruny look on his face, like he was smelling something bad. But the cops made it out like I was a hero or something, rescuing the poor crippled midget kid. So Grim listens to the cops and then he gives me this weird look, like imagine my surprise. And he goes into the house, and then Graham comes running out in her nightgown with this big fluffy towel, and she really makes a fuss. Me rescuing Freak, what a joke, right? Except that's how it must have looked from a distance, because they never knew it was Freak who rescued me, or his big genius brain in my big dumb body. Graham is there rubbing me with a towel, and her hands are shaking, and she's saying, "Oh, I saw those blue lights and I thought the worst." And Grim is behind her looking at me real intense and shaking his head, and he's saying, "Who'da thunk it, Mabel?" Which is some kind of joke because Graham's name isn't Mabel. Anyhow, they take me inside, and the first thing Graham does is give me a bowl of ice cream. And Graham, he keeps shaking his head, and he goes, "What this young man needs is a cup of coffee. Real coffee." Then he gets busy putting the filter in the machine and measuring out the coffee and standing by while it drips through. And he's got this stern look, like he's thinking deep thoughts. By the time I polish off the ice cream, Grim is handing me coffee in a china cup from the set they never use. We're going to pause right there and look at our first question that we have. Uh, First off, I want you to reread that scene again, starting with anyhow. And I want you to try to figure out how many times they mention coffee. Note any mention of it. So in your notebook, make notes. Resume the video when you are ready. So initially, Graham gives Max ice cream, but Grim gives Max coffee. And I want you to think about those two foods. What do you think of, and who do you think of when you think of ice cream? What do you think of, and who do you think of when you think of coffee? And this can be broad. This doesn't mean like, oh, I think of my sister. It can mean, oh, I think of old people. Do old people drink coffee? Do toddlers drink coffee? Who drinks coffee? Who eats ice cream? All right. And then what do you notice about Grimm's actions as he prepares and serves the coffee? Why do you think he acts like this? And if you're having trouble with this, I want you to think about what Grimm thought of Max before this. Grimm kind of thought of Max, he thought he was a lot like his father. We know that his father is in jail. So, what's different about how he's treating Max now? All right, we're gonna go back into our book. Pause the video if you need more time to answer those questions. He gives me the cup like it's a really big deal, maybe because I'm not allowed to drink coffee yet. And uh he's so grim-like and serious, I open my mouth to say, "What's the big deal? You really think this is my first cup of coffee?" "Yeah, right." And something happens and the words come out, "Thank you, sir." And it's like I'm possessed or something. I have no idea where the things I'm saying are coming from or why. All right, we're gonna pause there now. Um, why might Max not be allowed to drink coffee yet? And then how might this help us understand the significance of this scene? Um, when you're answering this question, I want you to think about whether you are allowed to drink coffee yet. Why or why not? So how might that help us realize the importance of this? Pause the video and answer that question. Our second question is, it wants you to, in one beautiful sentence, Explain what Grimm does and the symbolism of that action. Begin with the word after. So after this, Grimm does this, and it means this. When you're done, move on to cycle 2.